Hi guys, today we are going to learn about one of my all-time favorite artists to teach about. Her name is Karla Gerard, and hopefully you already looked at the PowerPoint that I shared, and so you know a little bit about her, but mostly you're familiar with her beautiful paintings that she's made. She's made thousands of paintings. She is 60 years old. Actually, she's in her 60s. And this is one of the things that she loves to do most in the world. She is a folk artist and an abstract artist. So what that means is folk art is kind of fun and playful and whimsical, kind of like cartoons, right? And then abstract art is when things don't look exactly like they do in person. So they don't look exactly like a real tree or exactly like a real house like we've got here in front of us. So she likes to combine both of those things together. So what we're going to do today is we're going to create our own Karla Gerard inspired piece. And in front of me, I am personally using oil pastels and watercolor. But just like we've been talking about over and over and over, guys, you can use whatever you have at home. I just felt like getting out oil pastels and water today because it just sounded fun. But if you have crayons, use those. If you have markers, use those. And use a mixture of different supplies too. We call that mixed media. So before we get started, I just want you guys to notice one of the characteristics of Karla Gerard's pieces is that she has lots and lots of color, and she also has lots and lots of pattern. So this is obviously a piece that we made here at Cedar Creek. But if you remember looking at all of her artwork in the video that I shared or the PowerPoint that I shared, you can see all of her pieces always have lots of interesting ways to create trees with patterns. Her grass and her hills always have lots of patterns. Her houses and buildings do. And even sometimes in her background, she has patterns. Even the way we created this fence along the horizon line is a pattern, because look, it repeats. This fun little pound shape repeats. So that's what we're going to focus on. That's what we're going to think about when we do this project. So I'm going to scoot this out of the way. And you guys should probably start with a pencil, but I am personally going to start with a black oil pastel just because I want you to be able to see what we're doing. And I also have my paper going horizontally, which means it's kind of the long way. It's not tall, it's going a long way. And just like any landscape, we're going to start first with our horizon line. Now, what's fun is you don't have to have a perfect line for your horizon line, but you do need to make sure it starts on one end of your paper and it travels all the way across and finishes on the other end of your paper. That's going to be helpful. Now, she always has sort of some kind, not always, I should say, but a lot of the times she has some kind of countryside. So she's got these fields almost, or she's got some fun patterns. My computer's getting in the way. She's got some fun patterns that she's got in her artwork, kind of in the foreground. So remember, the foreground is everything that goes below the horizon line. So I just kind of started with my oil pastel, and I created these different places that I'm going to change my pattern up. So if you remember, this is the piece I showed you earlier. I just kind of created different spaces that I can make these patterns in. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to add a couple houses. So when you add these, remember, you guys are going to be coloring them in. So don't make these teeny tiny houses that are going to be really hard to add color to. Make them a lot bigger. So I'm going to start with this basic square shape, and then on top I'm going to put a triangle, just like so. Sometimes in her work, she will have the front of her house showing, and she will have the side of her house showing, one or the other sides. So I think for me, I'm going to make a line going off of the top, right at the tip top of the roof, and I'm going to follow this line too. I'm just going to make this line go over all the way, and then I just need to connect these lines. And if your house doesn't look perfect, and if it doesn't look like my house, that's okay too. And then look, here's the back of the building. I need to make this line right here. So I'm going to do that. Now, one of the things that I ask you to look for in the PowerPoint is I ask you to look at the color that she uses. I ask you to look for pattern. And I also ask you to look at specifically the houses. And that's because this house isn't finished. It's actually missing some really important parts. So we're going to come back with a different color here in just a second. We're going to make sure it has a door. You've got to get in the house, right? And maybe we're going to add maybe some patterns on the roof or the side of the house, maybe even some windows. It needs detail. So here's one of my buildings. I might make another building right here. So I'm going to do, remember, a nice big square or rectangle. And then I'm going to kind of make a rounded top to that. Why not? And then over here, I'm going to do it again. I'm going to have either side of my building, house, building, whatever I decide it to be. Here's the triangle for the top. And I'm going to make the line out of the triangle, the line, the bottom of the triangle, and then I'm going to connect them. And I'm kind of at the edge of my paper here. So I'm going to add a different row for the fields over here. Now I think that our landscape is missing some trees. And remember, if your houses do not match mine, that's okay. They do not have to. You could put houses all along and have no trees if you want, or you could put one house and have lots of trees, or you could have one big house with a little barn. However you decide to create what's on top of your horizon line here, that is up to you. The only thing I'm going to remind you is to make them big enough that you can actually color them. And that's something we tend to do when we're younger, is we make really teeny tiny drawings, and then we can't color them in very well. So I'm going to add some trees here. And I'm just going to add a very simple tree. So here's the tree trunks. It's going to be the tree trunks. And then I'm going to add an oval. And in this one, we had some spirals, but you can do whatever kind of pattern you want. Again, I'm going to use a different color other than black. And I might actually add a tree in over here as well. Getting off my paper a little bit. That's okay. Sometimes you may even notice she has a sun somewhere in her artwork. I'm going to add a little bit of sun just to kind of balance out this piece. Something I want to show you too is that, see how I wanted bigger trees over here? I made it so you can't even see the tops of my trees. So that's something you may want to choose too. This is just the U shape on top of the tree trunk. And what that means is that this picture is zoomed in a little bit and I just can't see all of it. I can't see the tops of the trees. You can do it that way if you would like. And you can do different shapes. If you look at her artwork, sometimes her trees are rectangles or triangles or squares. So you do not have to do a circle or an oval type shape. So the next thing we're going to do is I'm going to start adding these details with my oil pastels. And you're going to add details with whatever materials you have. Again, it is completely up to you. But this lesson is a lesson in pattern. So I want to make sure that I'm adding some kind of pattern with my materials. So a pattern is something that repeats itself. So if I want to do orange stripes, I have to have more than a couple orange stripes. I have to make the pattern go all the way across. And I chose to do diagonal lines like that. You could do horizontal lines. You could do vertical lines. It's up to you. I chose diagonal for mine. And what's kind of fun is that you can even switch it up. What if I wanted to do what's called an A-B-A-B pattern? Maybe you guys learned this in class. That's where you alternate something in your pattern. So for me, I'm going to alternate colors. So my A-B-A-B pattern would be pink, orange, pink, orange, pink, orange. And that's what I've got going on here, all the way down. Sometimes patterns just are a simple shape that's repeated over and over and over. So polka dots are a really good pattern because they repeat over and over. I'm going to do that trick where it looks like there's more to it, but you can't see all of it. So here I'm adding just plain polka dots all over. I'm going to do the trick here where it looks like you can't see the whole circle. I'm going to do it here too. Okay. What if, I always get so excited choosing color. What if we did a different kind of line? Here we did a straight line. What if we tried different kinds of lines? Now that would be a review, right? We've learned all kinds of lines. We know straight lines, and sometimes we change the direction of it, like I just talked about. They can go vertically, they can go horizontally, or like I have here, they can go diagonally. And we know diagonals can go the other direction too. So what if we did a different kind of line though? Something that is a zigzag lines. And remember, it's not one line, you have to repeat it. That's what turns this line into a pattern. I'm going to repeat my zigzag line over and over, and that's how I know it's going to be a pattern. If I want to get really fancy, I could even do, what about a dashed, ooh, this is a hard color to see, hopefully you can see that. I'm going to do a dashed zigzag line in between. So I've just turned this into an A, B pattern as well, because I've got a, let me finish up here, purple zigzag line, a green dashed zigzag line, purple zigzag line, green dashed zigzag line. So I have repeated it all the way through. So another thing that we like to do sometimes when we're just learning about patterns is we like to make one shape and then move on to a different shape. But the idea is you keep going with the same shape. So if I choose a heart, I can't decide all of a sudden I'm going to do a bunch of triangles. I could do both if I wanted. I could do hearts and I could add triangles, but I have to repeat those shapes, which means you have to make them over and over and over. So I've got my hearts here. That one doesn't look complete. And what I can do is I can add, I don't know that I have enough room. These oil pastels are kind of chubby, but I could add maybe just some fun overall dashed lines, kind of like how we did the polka dots over here. I can add these fun little dashed lines to create an overall pattern, not one that repeats like my stripes, A, B, A, B, A, B, that repeats. Sometimes you do an overall pattern like polka dots. That's kind of what we've got going on over here. I don't have a whole lot of room here, so I'm just going to stick with a couple of these neon yellow horizontal lines. They're hard to see. So while I'm here, I may get a good swirl in my sun. I like to do a nice swirl shape in there. We can keep going over here too. I'm going to use this blue again. And what if I wanted, I just mentioned triangles. So what if I wanted to add some triangles over here? Now, if you guys are picking different shapes, that's okay too. If you want to fast forward through the rest of me kind of drawing these colors and adding the patterns, you can do that. I am making another overall pattern here with my triangles, and I think I'm going to get a green out, and I'm going to do some swirlies in the back. So again, this is a different kind of pattern than the AB pattern. This is just an overall pattern. So let's do another AB pattern over here. Maybe we can do an ABC pattern where we repeat something, but maybe we repeat it 3 times. So let's do, I get so excited switching colors. This is so silly. Okay, I'm going to do a pink line. And then I'm going to do a yellow line. And then, instead of going to pink, now I'm going to do a green line. So remember, patterns repeat themselves. So now I have to go back up to pink, pink. Yellow is after pink, so I've got to pick yellow. And green is after yellow, so I've got to pick green. And now I got to go back to pink. So A, B, C. A, B, C, all the way down. Can't repeat that last little color because I ran out of room, but that's okay. So this is an ABC pattern over here. And once again, I don't have a whole lot of space over here. So I might just pick a color and make vertical lines, something kind of simple. And I repeated the same shape 3 times. I can even make patterns in my tree trunks. I can make patterns in my trees. Do some polka dots. And the fun part is going to be painting these. Now, if you guys are using oil pastel, if you happen to have oil pastel at home, remember how messy oil pastel is, and it does not come out of your clothes. So notice I pushed my sleeve all the way up. It'll come off of your skin, it'll wash off, but I'm kind of smearing it. I'm being really messy because I don't have a lot of room here at my space to work. So just be careful of not getting it on your sleeve. I've got my sleeve pushed all the way up almost to my elbow. So keep that in mind. You know, I might actually do some kind of striped pattern on my tree trunk. I'm just going to do this repeating pattern of stripes. So I went all the way down, and I didn't have to do that on my tree trunk. I just chose to. I'm going to do something kind of fun too. Because I'm going to use watercolor, this will only work if you're going to use watercolor, but I'm going to make some polka dots here. And I know that you guys can't see it yet, but I'm going to do these in my background just for fun. This is going to be another pattern I have going on in the background. And when I paint over where my background, my sky is, everything that's above my horizon line, you are going to be able to see these white dots because I'm going to pick a different color to paint. And watercolors will do a resist with crayons, and which we've done many, many times in here, and oil pastels. So if you're one of my classes that got to do the Chicka Chicka Boom Boom, we used both crayons and watercolors when we created our giant Chicka Chicka Boom Boom lessons. So the last thing we need to do is add some kind of details on our houses, on our buildings. We want to know what they are. And I'm thinking this one is going to be a barn, kind of like a barn door. And then in the other ones, you need to have a door, right? I'm going to draw a door here, and maybe some windows. Got my doors. And then now we've got to add those windows. And notice I keep switching colors, and that's because Karla Gerard uses lots and lots and lots of color. So I want to make sure that I've got lots and lots of color on my piece too. I might even do a pattern on the roof, just for fun. All right, guys, I am being really messy. Hopefully you guys are better at making a mess than me. Put a window there. This is a really long video. I'm super sorry about that. But I can't wait to see what you guys come up with. I will pause it so that I can get my watercolor out and do a little bit of work with my watercolor. I think we're good. I might even do a pattern here. I'm gonna pause here. Remember when you do paint though, guys, this is a resist if you've used oil pastels or if you've used crayons. What you can do is you can paint right over it. You don't have to paint around it. If you've used watercolor or oil pastels, you just paint right on top of the oil pastel or the crayon, and it'll resist for you. Get this with my blue. So I will pause, and then when I unpause, I will have a completed project for you. So here's what I came up with, guys. This is my final Karla Gerard inspired piece of art. I hope that you guys have a blast making your own. Have fun.